online marketing agency in Sydney. We have about 27 staff now. We use kind of a hybrid model where we have more of our high-level and quality control people in Sydney, and then we have a number of other people overseas so that we can reduce staff costs and provide better value to clients.
It's a very efficient model. I mean, you mentioned that you have staff in a range of different countries, and in some of those countries you have people who are higher skilled for maybe a third of the cost, and you can pass that sort of savings on to the clients.
That's exactly right. I mean, you can employ people overseas with PhDs for less than what you can employ for the standard rate here. So
exactly right. Yeah,
it kind of makes sense. And there's some
I'm curious. When I hire overseas staff, I actually have a feeling of giving back or a feeling of helping. You could donate to World Vision or give to those communities through the traditional channels, but I honestly actually feel when I'm hiring a Filipino or someone from Kenya or whatever, I actually feel that I'm giving back to those local communities and helping to foster positive kind of economies in those areas. Do you feel that as well, or is that just me?
No, absolutely. It's very fulfilling. I mean, they tend to be a lot more grateful for their job and
Yes.
very appreciative of everything that you give. I mean, we've had instances where we started off and one girl, she kind of had her own business. It was just a kind of like those carts, and they have them on the side of the road in the Philippines, and so
Yeah.
she wasn't earning very much money, so she was kind of doing a little bit of work on the side, and then she's a very, very good worker, got good ethics. She actually probably
Yes.
works more than I do, but she just loves to work and earn money, and
Yeah. And
so
it's about providing for to the family and giving back. I find with Filipinos in particular, their morality, their honesty, their dedication. I love the Australian culture, and I love the country that we're from, but you don't find that here in Australia. You don't find that, when would you like me to work? I'll work 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, if that's what it takes to make, to provide the service that you need. Like that, that level of dedication is, it's amazing. And that's why bringing on overseas people into your team to support you and it's a great model, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like this particular girl, I mean, she's part of her motivation is so that she can provide more for her parents because her parents can't
Yeah,
work. And
exactly
then,
right.
so she's been amazing. Then we ended up employing her brother as well. So now we kind of support the whole family. And it's,
Yeah, I've often found that as well. When I hire a lot of, for example, transcriptionists, video editors, I find there are certain tasks which are really well suited for, to the Philippines, for example, and anything that is higher level, strategic, definitely has to be in Australia. And would you agree with that?
yeah, absolutely. And you can create systems and procedures in place that help them to become better. I think, like there's so much to know in internet marketing. If everything stopped today, you would never be able to learn everything in a lifetime. So
That's
it's
right.
very hard to expect that, of other people that aren't,
Yeah. One of the things I've learned about outsourcing is to not expect more of people than what's reasonable. I mean, I'm the kind of person who I believe in myself. I believe in my ability to learn and adapt and take on challenges and so on. But not everyone's like that. Some people just like sticking within the role that they're trained in and so on. So I've learned some hard lessons trying to squeeze strategy and strategic thinking and that forward planning creativity out of people who aren't necessarily like that. Yeah, how do you interview your people? Because I know that a lot of Startup Club members will be thinking right now, I like the sound of saving money, but I'm worried that your Filipino staff or you mentioned you have someone from Belarus, from Africa. Like how do I really know these people are good people who really have the skills? What do you say to people who are concerned about that?
Um, the first thing is, I mean, what are you presupposing if you're thinking that they're that they may not be good people or whatever, because everyone, is a person, no matter
Yeah,
if they're in Australia or Philippines or India or Belarus or wherever.
absolutely.
Just because they're on the other side of the world, it doesn't mean that you can trust them any less. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you can trust them more, or that it should be flippant in the hiring process.
Mm.
But, so that's the first roadblock that I see people come up against a lot.
Yeah.
In trusting, there's plenty of fantastic tools like Odesk. You can, hire people and monitor what they're doing on there, and that sort of stuff if you want to.
Well, I would actually argue that I have a much, much tighter control and a much better understanding as to what my staff are really doing and the quality of the work, because I'm able to look at what they're doing with screenshots every 15 minutes.
Exactly.
And I'm in constant communication through Skype. So I've hired lots of face-to-face staff in the same office, literally over there. And
They're all playing on Facebook.
exactly right. They're billing for time that's not necessarily productive and that kind of thing. While on Odesk, you've got evidence proof, and you can actually request refunds for any time that's so. I absolutely agree that just because they're on the other side of the world and they're managed remotely doesn't mean that they're any different. It's just as if they're in the same office.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Excellent. Yeah.
So I guess the question around the hiring process, I've coached a lot of people on hiring before, and something that comes up a lot is that they try to find exactly the right person through the interview process, and they will spend hours and hours and hours and hours on it.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes against the grain, against what everyone else kind of teaches out there. But we have a very streamlined, very fast hiring process. We'll put up a job, whether it's for web design or for coding or something like that.
Yeah.
And we'll put specific things in there, little tasks for them to do, so that we know that they've actually read it.
Read the job post, yeah.
Exactly.
You get so many standard responses. I always do an interview question or a challenge, or find the answer to this question or answer this question. Because if they're not going to read the job post, they're right from the beginning not going to show you that level of dedication and respect that you're looking for. Exactly.
And even putting those questions up there, sometimes you get people that read it, but they don't do what you've asked. It might be a simple, 5-minute thing, and if they're going for a full-time job.
Yeah.
For me,
if they can't follow those instructions, they're probably not going to follow any instructions.
Exactly. And sometimes you get people come back and they say, well, do I actually have to do that 5-minute job? And you know straight away that they're not probably going to be the right fit for you.
Exactly right.
So,
I actually think you can interview more precisely and interview with more practical challenges through outsourcing and through Odesk. It would almost be considered rude if you were hiring a local Australian, or and this applies in most first world countries, I'd say as well. It'd be kind of rude for them to come into the office. Here's my resume, and you say, okay, please sit down and do a 15-minute test, and I want to see how fast you can transcribe this, and I want to see how I want to see what you can do here with this video editing, and they'd be like, I thought this was an interview. But on Odesk and other sites like Elance and Guru, and the culture is you need to prove to the employer that you can actually do it, which means actually showing them what you can do, and that's what an interview should be. It should be practical.
Exactly. But so yeah, it is a good process, and it's not as scary as most people think. A lot of people get worried about, are they going to hire someone and they're going to have my login details for my website or whatever it might be, and it's you've got to have a little bit of faith, and it's kind of what you put out there is kind of what comes back to you.
And the rating system, I wish there was a rating system for traditional face-to-face office kind of work in Australia. I mean, on Odesk, you can see the past 50 employees. You can see the past 50 employers. You can see what those employers said about that staff member, what star rating, what skills. You don't have that on a resume. On a resume, it's like only the stuff that they want you to know about. On Odesk, they have to preserve their reputation because that's their lifeblood. If they get a bad rating, chances are they'll probably find it very difficult to get more work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think
I was going to say that's a tip as well. I mean, you see people with a lot of new profiles. So if you are listening to this and you're thinking of hiring someone, be a little bit more cautious about people that don't have any ratings at all, because sometimes what they do is, if they've had a bad profile in the past and they've had bad feedback from the work they've done, they ditch that account and they build a
Yeah,
new one. They
let's
say,
try to
"Oh, I'm
start
just
fresh.
new."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Sometimes it's a bit of an excuse, and you can generally find the ones who aren't truly new because they know how it all works.
yeah.
They already know about all the technology and all the software and how the payment works and so on, but they're meant to be new. So yeah, there's some warming signs there. So would you say that Think Big is unique in the sense that you're able to give that lower price? Is that one of your main focuses, being able to give that lower price because of the outsourcing, or how would you define Think Big? What's the kind of the unique aspect of Think Big?
Our whole mission from the start was to create a fully integrated agency that actually works. It
As
turns
opposed
out,
to what? As opposed to what? Like what are you trying to stay away from? What are some bad things, some bad examples out there with your competitors?
well, we've seen a lot of companies that try to offer SEO and social media and PPC and conversions and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the way they run them totally independent of each other, and they don't tie them all together. Whereas we look at it as
Ah.
more as a whole uh, ecosystem.
An integrated marketing mix. So your SEO supports and correlates with your pay-per-click, and then your social media is the flow-on effect from that, and then you have video marketing to achieve certain goals. And so it's about tying it all together, right?
Exactly, and and cross-pollinating it all as well. I mean, you should be
Mm.
touching people. We say you've got to touch them everywhere. You've
Yeah,
got to touch them in multiple places.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, and at multiple times in multiple different ways. So yeah, I
exactly.
mean, I equate Facebook as the Sunday night barbecue.
Yeah,
I equate LinkedIn as, having orange juice and handing out business cards, at the local networking club or whatever. Google search is the library. I mean, people browse the internet and use the internet in different ways. And if you have your brand in every single different part of their life, it becomes part of their life.
yeah, exactly. And we get a lot of compliments from our business, or comments rather, of people saying we've seen you everywhere. We've seen you, on YouTube and
Is that
LinkedIn.
because you're using the remarketing on
We
the
do
setting
use
up the
that as
display
well.
networking?
Yeah, yeah.
I get a lot
But
of comments saying, "I see your ads absolutely everywhere I go." It's like that's the impression I want to give. Remarketing for the viewers basically means that when someone visits your website, you can essentially follow them with adverts. So wherever they go, there can be an advert following them through the Google Display Network, and you can actually create some fancy rules. For example, people who visit the checkout page but don't actually buy. So the people who you lose through checkout anxiety, or maybe they just got busy, you can actually follow them and say, "Hey, didn't finish your order? Come back."
we're
So
watching you.
yeah, we're watching you. It can be a little bit scary, so you don't want to take it too far. But yeah, there's a lot of amazing features of online marketing, like for example the tracking and so on, that is only possible with online marketing. So let's get started with a scenario, hey?
Cool.
Um, so a great way for Startup Club members to decide whether you're the real deal and whether you should win the deal is to kind of be taken through a bit of a scenario. Obviously, we've vetted you. We think you're a high quality company, and we're happy to kind of show you off to our members. But our members are still probably going, does this guy suit me? So, what I want to do is tell you a little bit of a story about a hypothetical customer. And this customer, let's say they've been running for 2 or 3 years with a face-to-face sports store. So, it could be a little bit like Rebel Sport or, Powerhouse Sports. They sell cricket, they sell, tennis balls, tennis rackets, sports shoes, all this different traditional stuff. And in the last 2, 3 years, it's become very clear that they just can't compete with, with direct China imports and, all of the online shopping stores and so on these days. So they've realized, okay, we have to bite the bullet, we have to go online. And they come to you and they say, we're thinking of actually shutting down our face-to-face store, or at least minimizing it or complementing it with online. Is this the right choice? Are we making the wrong decision? Is online really as powerful as it is, as we hear? And is retail really as bad as everyone's saying? What advice do you have? What would you say to that person?
The first thing I would politely let them know is absolutely it works. I mean, I can't remember exactly what the stat is, but it's around 50% of our sales are going overseas at the moment.
Yes.
Um, with online shopping, because Australian e-commerce is just not providing it, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
and and so people are spending their money elsewhere. They're importing from all over the world.
Yep.
Um,
eBay, Alibaba, all of the, Amazon. If only people want to buy Aussie, they really genuinely do, but it's just not price competitive, and there's just not enough options.
Yeah, and
Mm.
I mean, even you look at something like the Iconic. I think they do
Yeah,
around $1 million a day in
yeah.
sales just to Australia. All the products are here in Australia, but people don't offer them. I mean, even if the business is importing them and selling them through an online store, an Australian-based online store, there's still massive opportunity there,
Mm.
but it's just not being utilised by Australian companies. I don't know. I think it's just because we're a little bit behind the US and UK that people kind of haven't cottoned on to that online is actually a real business.
Well, I think businesses are just starting to really take it seriously because they're seeing it in their bottom line. They're having customers come into their store and say, "Hey, I've done a price comparison using XYZ price comparison online tool, and I can see that I can buy this for 40% cheaper than what you're selling it at." But the thing is, the local retail store can't afford to lower their prices and compete with the online because they have the additional costs of staff, of rent, of insurance, of lighting, of all these things. It's just not possible. So they're seeing it in their bottom line. They are starting to cotton on, I think.
Yeah, they are starting to, and I guess in answer to your question, what is sort of one of the first things I'll be talking about with them
Mm.
is absolutely there's a massive opportunity there,
Yeah.
and it is a real business. So many people think they'll go and spend $500,000 on a store fit out,
Yeah.
but then they'll say, my budget, I just want to set up a website, and we
It's
want to,
$2,000 for my website. My entire
yeah,
online business,
yeah.
they'd spend more on electricity in a few months than on their entire online business platform. Yeah, very good point.
And we're still in the gold rush days. I mean, the wave is kind of come. It's here, and now is
Yeah.
the time that before it hits the back of the wave. Now is the time to be jumping on it. But the barrier
Mm.
to entry is so low. There's a lot of people out there putting up websites for $2,000, and they say this is my whole strategy. $2,000, I'm going to make
Mm.
$500,000 in sales in the next 3 months. It's kind
Yeah.
of a little bit unrealistic, and I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
people
but the
out there.
barriers to entry being low, that doesn't mean, I mean, you can achieve a lot with just $2,000. I mean, would you agree you can get an effective website out there, particularly if you're using, self-made tools like Shopify, or you can set up entire e-commerce platforms for, for $50 a month if you're willing to if you have the skills and willing to do it
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely, absolutely. You
But
can still make
that
a
yeah, the fact that it can be cheap doesn't mean that's where you should stop.
No, that's exactly right, and it's I guess when it comes to people wanting to talk with people like yourself or me, they kind of don't see the value in what they don't know. They don't know
Yeah.
because there's just so much more out there that can be done to improve your business and create this exponential. Um, I don't know what you would call it. Initially, want to
Well,
say
it's
cash
about
cow, but it's kind of a little
Well,
bit too.
it's about getting your quick break even, getting your return on investment on that initial kind of capital outlay of building the initial site. But then it's about building a sustainable series of revenue streams. It's not just about building something that it's good during the gold rush, but as soon as more competitors pop up, it will no longer be effective. It's about building a business, and business needs to be sustainable.
Absolutely, and online is moving very quickly. So that's where you've kind of got to keep your finger on the pulse and
Yeah.
keep adapting. Whereas like we had an example of a big shoe company that came to us 3 years ago,
Okay.
and they said we're kind of looking to get onto this online thing, and we've got a shopping cart set up, but it's kind of a little bit clunky. We had a look at it and we said, yeah, it needs a lot of a lot of work. Um, they weren't prepared to invest the time and money and the resources going back 3 years ago, it was
Mm.
quite minimal to get them up to speed with what
You know
they.
what? I bet they're regretting it now, hey?
I mean, you look at Style Trade, for example, in the
Yeah.
last 2 years has gone from zero to tens of millions of dollar company,
Yeah.
um, within 2 years. So this is the opportunity cost for this particular, and it's a well-known brand, well-known shoe company.
Mm.
Um, this is the opportunity that they missed. So it's potentially cost them tens of millions of dollars because they didn't really understand how much opportunity is there and
But I
really.
also I also feel that it's our responsibility as internet marketing consultants to educate and to help people to become aware of the risk, the opportunity cost, the opportunities, the risk of not making the decision, but also the risk of making the decision. Because I'm I get very frustrated when I see internet marketing consultants say, we'll guarantee you number one position and you'll be, rolling in money, and it's not that simple. I've mentored enough people to realize you have to execute effectively, you have to have the right strategy, and yes, then there's the opportunity.
Yeah, and that kind of ties in with what I said before, is you've got to treat it like a real business.
Yeah.
In a real business, when I say real, like a bricks and mortar business,
Mm.
if you go and set up a retail storefront, you don't set up the retail storefront and put out these signs and you're guaranteed of lots of money falling on your head straight away. It's this gradual and progressive thing that you've got to have reasonable expectations about.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's say that sports company is convinced and wants to take the next step. They obviously want to do e-commerce. They want to set up some sort of online store. They want to put some of their products up there. So that's a bit of a given. You'd probably, what can I ask you? What kind of platform would you recommend for them? Would you do kind of a software as a service platform like Shopify, or would you install a custom software like Magento or something like that? I mean, what advice would you give them there?
Our preference is a self-hosted thing, so
Yeah.
either Magento or WordPress. We've only
Okay.
been using Magento for a while, but WordPress has caught up with the e-commerce side of things, and
Completely agree. Completely agree. And to be able to integrate, like you were mentioning before about integrated marketing, to be able to integrate your website, so your content of your website, in with your community, in with your e-commerce, in with your video marketing, your email marketing, and having that one WordPress platform helps with that integration, doesn't it?
absolutely. And WordPress is the most powerful, flexible, cost-effective thing out there. And
Well, it is. Most of the plugins are free, and WordPress itself is free, and the hosting is very cheap. Yeah.
yeah, and so we're moving away from Magento, moving more
Yeah.
towards WordPress, and
Me too, actually. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very good platform to get started
Okay.
on.
Great answer. I agree. So, okay, so let's say you've chosen, one of the leading WordPress e-commerce plugins. There's a few choices, so I'm sure the client would speak to you about their particular needs. Where would you go next? I mean, once you've built their basic website, they've got their basic information, their company, all the obvious things you'd expect, and their e-commerce system. What's next? How would you further create a strong, sustainable marketing platform for them? I mean, where are you going to get traffic from? How else are they going to take their business to the next level?
Yeah, so kind of the way we work, we start with the end in mind. So even before we build the website, if they were in this scenario an offline business, and they said, we want to make the move to online and we want to make a sustainable business out of it, we would look at what are their end goals. How much revenue do they want to be making in a year and 2 years and 5 years?
Hmm.
Then we kind of work back from that, and we'll look at all the different traffic strategies that we could drive for their particular market, and where we would grab that traffic from, and then kind of build out this massive mind map of where that could potentially go and what we think is going to provide the best ROI in the shortest amount of time, so that their marketing can become self-funding.
Absolutely, and that is the eventual goal you have for your clients. The point where any profits that are made from the website eventually go reinvested back into marketing, and it becomes its own self-fulfilling organism, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. We've kind of broken it down into two main areas. One is they're either going to want to go aggressively for growth, or they're going to want to go for profit. A lot of people say, yeah, but we want both, which which I understand and appreciate.
If you aim for
But
both, you'll get neither.
yeah, it's kind of like that, and it's something hard to balance all the time. You're never going to hit break even, every single month. You're either going to be up a bit or down a bit. But if you've got that bigger picture and the bigger plan of building an actual real business over, 1 to 5 years,
Yeah.
then you're going to win in the long run. And probably half the reason why that is true is because nobody else does it. Most people think, we'll go out, we'll set up a website, and then they sit there and they're like, well, I'm not getting any traffic.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
No
it's
sales.
yeah. I really find your what you said before, your opinions on the cultural differences between face-to-face bricks and mortar companies and online companies. The fact that they're willing to spend 500 grand on a fit out and the rebuild of an office and hiring staff and so on, but only willing to spend say 2, 3, 4, 5,000 on a website, or the expectation that it's okay for a bricks and mortar company to take 2, 3 years to break even, but no, our online advertising must break even within 1 month. Like there's quite a different expectation. Yeah, go ahead.
I think a lot of it's come from, the industry started to clean up a little bit. Definitely sort of 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. There's still a lot of people out there going, push a button and you'll be a millionaire.
Yeah. That stuff drives me crazy. I call them internet marketing cowboys. They're the ones who generally they have the long copy websites. The ones with a big headline saying we guarantee you this, and the easiest system, just press a button and it's a money making machine. It's basically a giant scam. I mean, the best rebuttal I can give to those kind of claims is, I personally know some of the smartest internet marketing people in the world, Silicon Valley, people who are running the world's best companies, and these people are struggling. These people find it difficult to have a competitive edge. So if these PhDs, who are absolute geniuses with every skill in the book, are finding it difficult or challenging or failing 9 times out of 10, in Silicon Valley, how is it possible that you with no computer experience, let alone internet marketing experience, can just press a button and make money? It just doesn't make sense in terms of the rules of economics. If it was that easy, everyone would be pressing that button until that button became dead and no longer worked.
I think that button died probably 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, it died in 1997 when all you needed to do was sell pixels. Have you ever heard of that? I think it was $1 million web page or whatever. Have you heard of that? Selling the pixel website?
No, I haven't.
Oh, do you want me to tell you? Basically, it was a website called themilliondollarwebsite.com, something like that, and all he did was he sold pixels on this website. So a pixel was a little dot with a particular color, and so he would sell, 20 pixels by 20 pixels, a little square, and you could have your name or your logo or whatever, and he sold each pixel for $1. So I think it was 1,000 pixels wide by 1,000 pixels long. This is back in 1997 when everything was like, wow, the internet. And yeah, he made $1 million just from selling pixels. That's just a single page picture, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. There's been actually a lot of copycats who tried to do it again, and they all failed because the novelty. The first time something, the first mover advantage on the internet is generally, you have to do something pretty revolutionary to be able to get that fad, to get that novelty.
Yeah, and there's still, bringing up the first mover advantage is a good point as well, because there's still, like we say, we're kind of still in the gold rush days, and just because other people are out there doing. They might have a sports store as well online. It doesn't mean that you can't do things differently or think a bit creatively and take up a massive amount of market share. We're moving more away from kind of the direct selling to the indirect kind of peripheral selling.
Tell me a bit more about that. Tell the audience what you mean by that.
So whereas before you kind of, because you've got kind of, how would you explain it? The market has a life cycle of the start of a new market. So say, for example, if you put up a sports store online, there was no sports stores online, you can basically just say to people, this is a
We
sports
sell
store.
sports stuff online, and that's enough to convince them.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of move through the phases, and the next phase is kind of like, well, we sell things that will allow you to go and have fun and keep fit,
Yeah.
and you're selling a little bit more.
Selling some of the benefits, yeah, getting them more emotionally connected with what you're selling, as opposed to just saying we sell shoes, which XYZ competitor is just not really doing the effective copywriting and selling. They're more selling the indirect benefits. Yeah.
Exactly, and then as it progresses, it becomes you need to, because now you're talking to educated people, whereas at the start you were talking to less educated people because it was a brand new thing, and you could just say,
Yes.
we sell sports goods.
Yeah.
Now you're talking to educated people, so
Who have
particularly
choices.
exactly. So particularly like in our market is a good example. Everyone out there is saying we sell SEO. We'll put you on the first page of Google, blah, 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 blah. You kind of need to go past that. We absolutely well past that to stand out and be different. And you need to have different conversations with people. The conversations are not just one-on-one. They're conversations online, whether it be through social media or a blog or just a copy on your website. You need to be having a higher level, more abstract conversation about how you're different and how you're going to provide them better benefits.
And I think this is great because it shouldn't be that easy. You shouldn't just be able to say we sell sports stuff online and people just come to you. I think the fact that competition is forcing people to be more creative, to think about where is the value, what do our customers truly want, and asking them those kind of questions and actually delivering what they want. Where what's your pain and how can I help you, and what really makes you tick. I think that's really good because that's innovation. That means that the what's out there is actually going to better serve the business environment, the economy, and the community. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely, and now moving into what I call a review revolution is you've got third-party endorsements coming on more. So before you could
coming from your customers, not just from newspapers and radio announcers and so on. It's coming directly from the community of buyers.
Exactly. So before, in the early stages of the market, depends what market you're in. If you're in a brand new market that comes online now, then this is probably not as applicable to something like a sports store that has been around for a while, or internet marketing, which has been around and it's kind of well established. But there were some stats released last year where it's something like only 30% of people actually believe advertisements that are seen online.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interesting analysis on banner blindness, essentially how little people actually see. Not because they block it or they install the plugins, just because psychologically they've been trained. If there's something that has this certain size and looks of this type and it's blinking at you, don't look at it. So that's why I really liked what you said before about the indirect marketing. My attitude about that is selling online these days isn't just about saying we have the cheapest, best product, and we deliver it the fastest, and whatever. It's about the experience. It's about the relationship you have with someone. It's about customers being willing to pay 30% more if they know that their product comes from a company they like and they respect. It's just because you're on the internet doesn't mean it's not relationship selling.
Exactly, and like you said, it's a very good point. We definitely don't recommend it to clients to get into a price bidding war, because you can't
win online with price bidding. There will always be someone who's willing to take less money and cut their corners, and we can't compete with online startups in Asia who are willing to sell things at 30% cheaper because they're only paying their staff $2 an hour.
Yeah, that's right. And so you've got to, as marketers, we need to be a little bit smarter in how we position ourselves and how we have those conversations, as I say,
Exactly,
putting in little mechanisms. So, for example, e-commerce clients, a very simple thing that we do for them and recommend is part of the buying process. Once someone's actually gone through, bought the product, instead they get an email confirming that they've got their purchase and that sort of stuff. But what happens if you send a follow-up email and you say, "Hey John, just wondering if you got your product, and you're happy with it. Are the shoes what you expected? And
Yeah,
that's
do they fit well? Yeah, absolutely. Or saying, hey, I noticed that you chose the latest Nikes. Um, if you want some socks that go with it to complete the package, and giving that level of personalization that a concierge or a storekeeper would give, and it actually being a human. It doesn't take long to send an email and just customize a sentence or two, but that level of appreciation and relationship that you're going to build is like, wow, there's actually a real person. Someone actually cares about my order. That really stands out in this highly automated world. It doesn't take much.
exactly. And once you open that conversation, they're going to tell you, it came. You told me it was going to be 5 days shipping, but it actually came in 7. So that's really good feedback for your business to go, right, we need to fix this. It's simple. So this person was happy with everything else, but they were a bit disappointed that we couldn't deliver on time or whatever it was.
That's a
So you
really
take
great
that,
point.
you take that feedback and then you go and improve your business instantly. And then, going forward, you've got even more happy people. So everything else was good before.
That's right. And
Then,
the positive snowball of word of mouth and relationship just continues rolling down the hill. I think one of the things that you mentioned, the ability to collect feedback and ask questions and be a responsive, agile, a caring business who actually listens to their customers' needs. I think the internet has actually made that a lot easier. Some people say, "Oh, the internet, it's all cold and emotionless and no relationship, and I don't know what my customers are thinking." Quite the opposite. If you look at a Google Analytics report and you look at exactly what's the path that they're going through your website, where are they exiting, what search terms are they using, how are they browsing, there are tools like heat map analysis where you can actually see where is their mouse moving and what are they clicking, and you can actually watch videos of people interacting with the website and so on. You can't get any of that in store.
no, not at all. And this is where, that brings up a whole nother point of people not tracking all this sort of stuff, because the internet, while it is very complex and there's so much to know, it is so easy if you put the proper tracking metrics, the proper tracking things in place. You can see the metrics of exactly what's going on in your business.
But the challenge is analyzing it, though, and really, in my experience, I've never met a customer who could effectively analyze, Google Analytics and find the actionable conclusions from that.
That's why they need smart people like you, though, to translate it for them into normal world speak. But the main point is, all this data is there. You can know, their age, their sex, their what sort of buying habits, what sort of websites they like, how long they spend on your site, why they left your site. It's all there for the taking.
I think some people may find that a little bit scary, but the way I look at it is, if you can understand your customers, you can actually give them what they want. And isn't that what they want? They want to be given what they want. If you understand that, if you run a targeted advertising campaign on Facebook, for example, and you're targeting specifically athletes who are female in New Zealand, for example, you know that you can give them exactly the landing page and exactly the experience that they're looking for, which is going to save them time and give them exactly what they want. That is just good business, and that's just being a good person in society, creating more solutions rather than more problems.
That's exactly right. And if someone has got a problem that needs solving, you are doing them a disservice by not solving that problem faster.
That's right.
There's an athlete, a woman athlete out there, and she, may be having trouble with her legs or whatever. I don't really know. Let's just say for a running example.
Yeah.
She might need the exact shoe that you have to help fix the leg injury problem or whatever it might be, to run a faster race so that she can do better things and spread the love to the world from there. But if you're not advertising more specifically to them, you're not going to get the sale. The problem for her is not going to be solved, and so it's a lose-lose situation. So there's a lot of people who say, privacy this, privacy that. Google knows everything about you anyway. They know blood type and DNA and
absolutely.
But
absolutely. It is scary, but at the same time, and yes, I think that there is a reason to be concerned and to keep those things in balance. But the reality is, the end result is You're going to get a personalized service on the internet. The adverts you see are going to be relevant to you. They're going to solve your own problems. I don't want to see adverts about, I don't know, buying a wedding dress. I want to see adverts about things that matter to me. So yeah, I'm glad you agree. As long as that there needs to be the people out there who keep that level of awareness, but in the end, you need to embrace the personalization and embrace the relationship that you can have with individual customers on that individual basis. So that's where CRM systems, in particular the rise of social CRMs, where you actually understand the psychographic and the demographic and the learning style and the motivations and the objections and the fears of your customers. And Amazon and Netflix have been great case studies of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
So,
I want to ask you one final question before we wrap up. What would you say to this sports owner store if they said, "Hey, I've got 500 grand budget. It's all yours. Just can you quickly list some of the things that you would, off the bat, be able to offer?" I guess I'm kind of asking, what can you offer? What are your services that you can do at Think Big?
So first up, as I mentioned before, it's the whole strategy, understanding exactly who the target market is, how you're going to reach them, and what problems you're going to solve for them. If you don't do that initially, you're cutting your potential profits
Yes.
dramatically. I can't stress that enough. So many people are in a hurry to get their website up, but that's
Yeah.
not what makes you money. Websites
They,
don't
they
make you
haven't
money.
even spoken to their customer and asked them, "Hey, what would you look for in a website? What makes a good website? What would our website have to look like for it to be a website that you would buy from?" They don't ask those questions, so they're not going to get the right answers. They're not going to get the right results.
That's exactly it. And I mean, the website, as I said, the website doesn't make money. It's just a conduit for the client to connect with you and effectively give you money for you solving a problem for them. Every transaction that happens in life where there's money exchanged or value exchanged, it's exchanged because there's a problem being solved. It doesn't matter if you're giving to
Yes.
charity, but basically that's what it comes down to. So I guess moving on from there, the strategy, building a website around that's going to fulfill the way that your target market is going to want it. Obviously, if it's a death metal thing, they probably don't want a hot pink website with blue writing. So then you've got your website is, as I said, it's a conduit. It's a fundamental thing. You want to be absolutely running your own website and owning that space.
So you would give you would give the sports store training in how to maybe do blog posts or record their own videos and have control over that message. So yeah, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we strongly believe in, so much to the point that we will give clients a self-hosted website and they own that, which they should because they're paying for it. Whereas a lot of other web design companies out there, which a lot of people don't know, is they'll build it on their own CMS.
Yes.
Or
Proprietary systems that they can't leave and move to another web designer. And the scary thing is, the web designer owns the copyright, so you don't even own your own business. That
Yep.
is scary, and I strongly advise any contract that infers that. In fact, you should proactively state, me as the client, I'm paying the bills, I own the copyright, I have complete control of the source code, I can move to any other web designer. Couldn't agree with you more. Great point.
Yep. So yeah, website, and then we're looking at where is the target market. Well, we already know where they're hanging out, and then it's implementing. So
So you would do things like search engine optimization to be able to get people who are searching for Nike boots or whatever. You would do pay-per-click to do more kind of targeted advertising around, let's say, Facebook. Interests, and so you do all of that advertising stuff. You do. I'm looking here. You do email marketing, reputation management. So I guess Think Big is, as you said, the integrated kind of solution. So thinkbigonline.com.
Yes, that's one.
Perfect. Well, I've really enjoyed the chat today, and Samuel, I think the audience will agree that you're the real deal. So thank you for your time, and I'd love to have you back on the show another time to have some further chats.
Yeah, pleasure. That'd be great. Thanks for your time.
All the best. Cheers.
Okay,
Bye bye.
Bye.